starting. Okay. I'm Ed Shokare, president of the Collaborative. And with me is Ken Sudrick, our proposed community development director. Ken, why don't you sit down? And thanks for having us here. I was down from Boston, and I came down for our company's Christmas party over at Sandy Springs. So when I heard that I was invited to come and present tonight, I didn't come down in a suit, so I hope you forgive my more informal attire here. You've asked us to present our capabilities and our approach, and beyond as a summary of what we gave you in our documents. The Collaborative is one of New England's leading planning, design, communications firms. We've developed a national practice, a growing practice, with an office in California. We're based in Boston, and we started to work down in Georgia. I'm an MIT-trained city planner, a master of city planning. My partner is an engineer and has a master of city planning from MIT, and all of the major group leaders in the department are MIT grads. So what that means is we bring a corporate culture to our work, where we look for complex problems. The more complex problem, the more we get excited about it. And when we look for complex problems, we apply systematic thinking. That's where we bring it to all our projects. And when we think about it systematically, we look for how to make connections, look to connect the dots, technical information, as well as relationships, people, organizations that can be working together that maybe are not currently. And when I talk about connecting the dots, hence our name, the Collaborative. Our culture is to collaborate as a team, technically, as professionals, with you, the client, and with the community. Out of that, we find really terrific things coming. Our approach, as we bring to our work these kinds of projects, a very strong emphasis and a lot of experience in management of contracts, and contracts like this, and technical know-how. We combine those two things. We bring our national experience, and we merge that with our Georgia know-how. And where do we get that Georgia know-how? Well, we get it from our work now in Sandy Springs. And we get it through, I should be over here to get this, through our choice of our community development director. When we just thought about coming and bidding on your city, we went and looked around Georgia for the appropriate community development director. And I asked lots of people, and we interviewed a number of people. And the gentleman I just introduced you, Ken Sudrick, we found to be what everyone that we talked with about Ken said, he's just number one. You can't get a better community development director. He brings strong management know-how in managing community development departments, and we care about management. And he's also a strong technical planner. He knows land use planning, zoning, community development, economic development. So he combines, as a community development director, those things we care about in the current firm. So these are things we bring to our approach. We bring a culture of excellence. And all our work since we started our firm 22 years ago, our ratings by our contracts have always been 95% or higher. Sandy Springs sent over 19 out of 20 excellence for our work in Sandy Springs. Across the board. And we care, we're passionate about our work, and we put our hearts and souls in it, and it comes out in our performance ratings from our customers. Our approach is that we're frugal. Your money, we care about your money. When your city started, there was an effort called Brookhaven First. So we looked at that and said, how do we put Brookhaven first? And for us, that means Brookhaven less. We looked at how to do the work that you asked for, your statement of work. We're $2 million less than the next bidder that was deemed acceptable by the Governor's Commission. We looked at that statement of work, and from our experience, we knew we could do it for the price we gave you, and we know you care about your dollar and how it's being spent. So we're frugal thinkers as a consultant. So a little bit about the experience that our company brings with municipal and community development planners. We've done over 100 master plans around the country. And for communities comparable to yours, we've done plans for Lexington, Mass. That's a very similar community up in the Massachusetts area. But lots of, as well as big cities, the city of Boston, Providence, Rhode Island, and others. We do zoning. I've written lots of zoning and the planned unit development zoning that led to that mixed-use development there. So we're zoning experts. We're master planners. We did the master plan for MIT's new campus, a 20-acre expansion of MIT's campus that's led to over 2 million square feet of new development, and we did that master plan. Economic development, we're hired by a lot of communities to develop economic development plans, to do market studies, to determine what would be feasible and to attract new development. We're placemakers. You guys have all heard or maybe seen the Big Dig, where we had an elevated highway put under the ground, and above it is 17 acres of land. We were the urban designers for how that land was reused. And we created a parkway called the Rose Kennedy Greenway. And those are images of it now. And it's a thriving part of the city. We were the urban designers to hold the public participation, hold environmental permitting. Another project that we're very proud of was we won the award from the American Society of Landscape Architects. Was to take a brownfield site, an old contaminated industrial site, and it's turned it into a new park. It was a $40 million bond bill that created this new park system. Really, there was several sites that were put together. We did the state of Massachusetts transportation plan. We have a group in the company that's transportation planners. We did the statewide bicycle plan in Massachusetts. We're hired by the federal government, both the Federal Highway Administration and the Federal Transit Administration hire us, and we're a contract with them to do transportation planning all around the country. And then we have, in recent years, started to get involved in management of contracts within the federal government on site for the federal government. For example, NASA hires us to manage a number of contracts where they have these big research centers with thousands of scientists and engineers working at these centers, where they're small cities, and they've hired us to do the environmental permitting on them, the master planning for them, when they do new expansions, the building, a lot of permitting, of building inspections, landscape architecture, and the like. So we started to get involved in managing these kinds of contracts, and that's when we saw the cities down here starting to issue contracts for firms to run their departments. So we bid on Sandy Springs, and we won 2 departments there. We won their community development department, and we won their communications department. And we just finished a major initiative there of putting together, of leading an effort to develop a master plan for a new city center. So I'll hand it over to Ken Sudrick now.
Good evening. Just to tell you a little bit about myself, I've been in the field for 30 plus years. I started in Athens a long time ago and spent a long career there. I became planning director in Duluth, and now I'm community development director in Smyrna. I was 7 years in Duluth. I'm almost 6 years in Smyrna. Athens Clark, when I left, I was the assistant planning director. I was in Athens for 21 years in various planning-related issues. Ed has already pointed to my managerial capability and technical expert. I do have a love for land use and economic development. If I had to say that was my specialty, that's what I would tell you. I feel like I'm a straight shooter, and I'm a consensus builder. That's just what I've learned through the years, is that's what it takes to get stuff done. One of the negatives of the planning field is we may create great plans, but we may not get them implemented. And so what good is the plan if we can't get them implemented? And I've really tried to focus on getting stuff implemented. The first year, we're going to focus on the systems. Obviously, we've got to build a lot of stuff, but we've got to depend on the CAD and have that transition and have it be seamless with us. We need clear reporting to keep you informed, obviously to keep Ed informed, as well as I need to understand what my people are doing as well. From a service point of view, customer first. That's how I run the Smyrna Community Development Office. Is let's work with you and see what the issues are, see what the problems are, and see if we can't find a way to get to yes. And if we can't, that's also part of our job, is to say no. But there's multiple ways to say no and still walk away with a professional respect of everybody. We need to have a presence in Brookhaven, and code enforcement, I think, is one of the quickest ways to show the community that you're serious, that we're grabbing the reins. Is through code enforcement, because that's a day-to-day issue, and you can see it. And then community building. Obviously, that's extremely important. I realize that there's been sort of a split, even to have the city. And so I'm sure there's going to be some people who, on the other side of the coin, may not necessarily make it as easy as they should. So we have to embrace everybody. The other aspect of that is comprehensive plan. Not only is it a state requirement, it's an issue, it's a building block for us. It's a building block for you. We can start with what DeKalb has, portions of that, but then we need to customize it and build it for Brookhaven.
So there's and there that what we bring in terms of our capabilities and our approach is that we're experienced on-site contract managers of contracts like this and others, technical contracts that are on-site, and technical know-how. So with that, we'll take questions.
You have 2.5 more minutes. Anything else?
Oh, thanks.
Questions being, or you want to do?
Go on, that's a good question.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? I'm going to ask one question that's not on the list, but I plan on asking every one of them. When it comes to community development, things of that nature, what is your philosophy on making sure that the needs and desires of the taxpayers of Brookhaven are carried out, not your particular preference for how communities should develop when it comes to zoning and things of that nature?
I think Ed and I would have very similar answers, but since I'm the smarter person, I'll start. That's always not only a valid question, but always a question that's asked. I think it's very important. I take the approach that it's all of our community. It's not my community. I just have been privileged enough to be asked to help guide it. And my goal is to provide whoever the decision makers are, whether it's this group, or the Planning Commission, or a variance board, or another community board that you may appoint, is to give them ample information about the subject, so that they can make a rational decision. And if that's done, then I feel that is what you've asked me to do, is to give you the pros and cons of an issue. And yes, what our recommendation would be, but that's what it is. It is a recommendation. I've been able to be in this profession as a career, as I said, for over 30 years. And I think part of that is because I have been able to guide through that and understand that this is what the community wants.
And finding out what the community wants is a wonderful way of building new relationships that don't exist, and find out so much more. I mean, the public participation process is such an educational process. You will learn so much, and your neighbors will learn information about where they're coming from, especially if you do one where you're focusing on interests rather than positions. Where are there, because there's probably a lot of common shared interests out there where people may be perceiving, differences. And so that starting off early on with the master planning process, a comprehensive planning process, is a great way to get people to start to see the larger community of Brookhaven too, and other people tend to focus on just certain areas of their lives, and having that kind of process allows people to get to know their community a whole lot better and appreciate the desires of other members of the community.
So
if we need to get some other question.
No, I was going to say your package is obviously very comprehensive. You thought about what you're providing. Obviously, our needs, there'll be a little bit of ebb and flow. Early on, it's going to be a different need, and it will be 6 months or a year out. Early on, it's focused on the mundane things of getting started and getting plan review up and running as quickly as we can, so we can. Fortunately, we have a bit of a momentum with development growth in Brookhaven right now, continuing that, and then sort of backing up a little bit about how you're going to handle that startup and what sort of flexibility you have with regard to staffing levels.
Yeah, I'm fortunate enough to have a number of folks who have helped Sandy Springs get started. There's about 12 people on our staff in community development who were involved in that, and they're already putting together guidance documents for us. And some of those individuals, maybe even individuals, we actually bring on here and who play leadership roles here as well. So we're going to have a lot of institutional knowledge. Some stuff, you've already accepted some ordinances from the county. We had to do that in Sandy Springs and Fulton. Then you got to take time. Then you need to do that legally. There's some ordinances that you want to change. You got to do that in a democratic way, in a process, and that takes some time. But we want to make sure, and we have a number of forms that we'll bring over with us, and formats and processes, and we're going to wait for you, and we write about it in the proposal. You're all going to make some decisions about what's the best IT system for tracking your jobs. There's a number of off-the-shelf systems out there that cities use, and until that's done, and you're going to want it to be integrated with your financial and management folks, they're going to want to be able to see how money's being spent, and we're going to be bringing in money through permitting. And so it's got whatever we do, whatever our system we use, has to be integrated with the financial management system. So until that's done, we'll use other computer programs that we've developed to track jobs that are ad hoc, that will work, and then that we can then migrate over to the system that the city finally decides on. And we've got all those things. Yeah, I'll leave that with folks.
What is the first task you would approach in setting up your department, and when can you start?
Yeah, well, we're ready to start on January. Well, if you want us to start next week, we'll start. But we figured with the holidays, you'd be ready to start January 1. But we'll start next Wednesday, the day after Christmas. Yeah, we can do that.
What about on Christmas?
No. And the first tasks are going to be getting these forms in place, ways to receive information from DAF to CAB so that it makes sense and that we can it'll be usable information, because we're going to have to get a lot of information there, and they don't have it. They have their strengths and weaknesses, and their GIS stuff is weak, and I know GIS is on another contract, but we got to work with those other contractors to make sure that, because we use the GIS information so very much in the planning. So we're going to really need to do that.
Mr. Mayor, there's time for one more question.
Right. I got the time. One more question? Anybody have another question?
Matt, I just wanted to ask you how you would envision implementing code enforcement to bring about this community presence.
That's a good question. We've got a terrific code enforcement group in Sandy Springs, and a good relationship with Marcus Kellum, who runs it for the county. Marcus used to be at Sandy Springs. So one of the things And so we're going to find out from Marcus and his folks what they've been working on already, so that we can pick up from that. We know that there's some older apartment complexes that could use what we do in Sand Springs called apartment sweeps, where we come in, work with the managers, and let them know that we're going to be coming through en masse with several code enforcers that want code enforcement. We bring fire and police too when we come through, at least fire come through, because we identify other things that are beyond, that are fire issues and so on. So we'll look to do that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Want that?
Sure.
I have a question on procedure. So the questions that you ask, well, if we don't get through all of these questions, for example,